So hi guys, there's a new chapter, and a new season of the beginning after the end. If you haven't watched the last episode of the previous season, make sure to check it out first so you can understand what happens next. At the beginning of the episode, we see Arthur Lei Win. He looks intense and serious, staring ahead while thinking about Sylvie, who has been possessed by Agrona Vritra, the ruler of Alakria. On the other side, Sylvie stands with completely red eyes and a faint smirk, clearly under Agrona's control. Realizing the situation, Arthur quickly raises his hand, gathering air from outside before sealing the door with his magic. Despite his actions, he looks visibly tense as he asks, "What happened to Sylvie? Is she okay?" Agrona responds calmly, "Oh Sylvie, that's a nice name. Don't worry, I'm only using a harmless spell to communicate with you. Nothing will happen to her. She's just sleeping." Hearing this, Arthur uses his magic again to arrange chairs so they can sit and talk. Agrona notices this and says, "Well, it's nice to communicate with you, especially since you're not trying to kill me." Arthur replies coldly, "I'll kill you the moment you enter my bond. Have you gone mad?" Agrona answers, "By the way, I can't use mana arts inside this body." Then, with a more serious expression, he continues, "Let's talk about something more important." He waves his hand and adds, "I'm glad I came directly to you instead of one of your leaders. It would have been interesting to see their reaction if they knew Agrona had appeared in what they consider the safest place." Arthur narrows his eyes and asks, "What's the second reason?" Suddenly, Agrona steps closer and says, "If there's anyone on this continent I'm most interested in, it's you." Hearing this, Arthur grows even more serious, thinking to himself, "Why would the ruler of Alakria be interested in me? Whatever it is, it can't be good." Agrona smirks and says, "Look at your face. There's no need to worry. I'm not going to attack you." He lets out a small laugh. "This is just a test, and in this form, I can't really do anything anyway." Arthur responds cautiously, "You're a very strange person." Agrona laughs. "Strange? What were you expecting? A cave king trying to conquer the world?" Arthur replies, "Something like that." Agrona continues, "Well, you're not entirely wrong. But I still want to be seen well by my people. I've spent generations in Alakria, watching their morals change. Public executions used to be normal, but now people find them horrifying. It's fascinating how perspectives shift over time. That's why my people now treat the lessers like you." Hearing this, Arthur responds angrily, "So what do you consider right and wrong? You killed millions and destroyed countless lives. That doesn't sound very noble coming from you." Agrona chuckles. "And you say that while displaying my dear Jarrett's frozen body like a trophy? I don't think you're in a position to judge." Arthur pauses, briefly wondering if there's any truth in Agrona's words. Then he says, "Even so, Alakria isn't completely a wasteland. The lessers there are treated like slaves." Agrona replies, "Do you really think I don't care about the lessers?" Arthur responds, "According to the Azuras, you conduct cruel experiments on them. You breed with them and perform countless tests. That's why you were expelled." Agrona smiles slightly. "Do you know what the best kind of lie is? A half-truth." He glances to the side, as if noticing something, and continues, "Did they really never tell you why I was expelled?" Arthur asks, "Isn't it because you wanted to build an army capable of killing the other Azuras?" Agrona pulls out a horn from beneath his cloak and replies, "So that's all they told you?" He tosses it casually and adds, "Do you really think I just woke up one day and decided to slaughter my own kind?" Arthur answers firmly, "No matter what reason you give, it doesn't matter. What you're doing can never be justified." Agrona sighs, slightly disappointed. "I expected as much. Your mindset is just like his." He continues, "Let me give you a theory. Imagine you were born on this continent without magic. How different would your life be? The royal families you know wouldn't even look your way. Your peers from Xyrus? No, without magic, you would never have gone there." He pauses before continuing, "How would you feel? Basilisks are already looked down upon by other races, but imagine your own kind despising you for your lack of talent. Even Lord Indrath, who acknowledged you, wouldn't have spared me a glance." Arthur scoffs and replies, "And this hypothetical version of me is supposed to relate to you? That still doesn't justify playing with countless lives just to gain power." Agrona narrows his eyes and asks, "Do you cry for the ants you step on?" Arthur laughs slightly. "I was naive to think we could have a rational conversation." Agrona waves his hand dismissively and says, Everything I achieved through those experiments has benefited the leaders of Alacria. They worship me, not out of fear, but out of reverence. To them, I am their savior. Arthur asks, did you erase their memories? The memories of you killing and torturing their ancestors? Or something like that? Agrona Vritra turns to the side and replies calmly, I'm sure those test subjects were grateful that I made use of them. It is their heirs, their future generations, who will reap the rewards of their sacrifices. Hearing this, Arthur Lewin thinks to himself, this egotistical maniac. He truly believes what he's doing is right. Arthur then asks, what exactly have you accomplished that could possibly justify experimenting on the people of Alacria? Agrona, while casually touching a nearby piece of art, replies, Arthur. In Decathlon, the ratio of mages to non-mages is 1 to 100. He then turns toward Arthur and continues, what do you suppose the ratio is in Alacria? He pauses before answering, it's 1 in 5. Hearing this, Arthur is stunned, his eyes widening in shock. 1 in 5. Agrona smirks and says, look at you, you're impressed. Arthur quickly regains his composure and asks, what's your goal in all of this? You sound insane. Agrona replies calmly, insanity is relative. Arthur, now more cautious, says, I assumed you wanted my help. Or that you were trying to get me on your side. Hearing this, Agrona laughs. My side? He sighs lightly and continues, you make a lot of assumptions, but you're still missing the answers. Then, with a faint smirk, he adds, I suppose I can provide some. The scene shifts to a forest. Soldiers are running quickly, holding their weapons, and forming shields behind them. A huge giant crashes through their defenses, breaking the shields and throwing soldiers aside as it runs away. Even so, the others keep trying to hold their ground, pointing their weapons at the giant beast. One of the leaders shouts angrily, oh great Vritra! Shields up! Keep the defense panels steady. Don't let any beast stray from the pack. The soldiers move forward, trying to control the beasts with their weapons and shields. Nearby, a soldier named Ashton sits on the ground, using his magic. The leader clenches his fists and grits his teeth, thinking angrily. It was such a pain bringing them here from the northern beast glades. I guess even Anads have their uses. Better one of them dies than a mage. He looks at Ashton and asks, can you scan inside the forest? Ashton replies nervously, no sir. My range can't reach that far. Maybe because of the fog. The leader turns and says, looks like you'll have to go in with us. Ashton is shocked. What? That's not what I... Before he can finish, the leader grabs his shoulder and shouts, you sentries think you're special because of your spying tricks? You'll be safe with me and the casters, safer than if you keep talking. Ashton quickly nods. Yes, sir. The leader lets go and says, now form a mental link with me, and only me. You don't seem very good at multitasking. Ashton places 2 fingers on the leader's head and forms the link. Then he speaks through it, can you hear me? The leader responds, how is it you still stutter even in your own? Ashton interrupts, I can only send messages one way. I won't be able to hear you. The leader tosses him a small bag. I hear you. Get ready. This powder will stop the corrupted beast from attacking you for a short time. He then thinks to himself, all the beasts have entered El's higher forest. I can finally show off my newly unlocked crest. If this mission succeeds, I'll gain access to the obsidian vault and get an emblem, just like my father. Meanwhile, all the soldiers line up, waiting for orders. The leader smiles, raises his hand, and shouts, Anads, front line. Weapons ready. Strikers, behind them with shields. Casters, stay close. All the soldiers get into position, gripping their weapons tightly. The leader cracks his knuckles and gives the final command. In the El's higher forest, the elf soldiers stand guard, holding their weapons and watching the area carefully. Suddenly, loud noises echo through the forest. The soldiers turn in shock and see a large group of mutated monsters rushing toward them. The elves quickly raise their weapons to fight back, but the sudden attack throws them into panic. At the same time, on the other side, the Unad's leader smirks and gives the order, charge. His soldiers rush forward with their weapons, clashing with the elf soldiers. Blades collide as both sides fight fiercely. While watching the battle, the Unad's leader thinks, these Decathian mages have strange and flexible magic. Even the weaker ones can protect themselves with mana. But it doesn't matter. This mission is an easy way to earn honor and raise my status. He continues thinking proudly, leading these mutant beasts is exciting, much better than those boring secret missions. My presence alone gives these soldiers confidence. Most of them are older than me, yet their runes are far weaker than mine. My father may not have gained a legendary regalia, but I will, once I enter the vault myself. On his back, a glowing mark shows his strong mana power. He smirks confidently and thinks, I alone will make House Vale rise above all of Vekar, maybe even all of Alacria. Then he notices some of the mutant beasts being killed quickly. On the battlefield, the elf leader fights skillfully, cutting down the beasts one by one. She shouts, do not let a single beast pass. The Unad's leader grips his blade and smirks. She's my target. He gives quick orders. Saren, focus your shields on me. Stay back with Mari. Ashton, stay close to them and report my position if I'm in danger. He channels mana into his blade, making it glow, and rushes toward the elf leader with a confident smile. She notices him and blocks his attack, but the force pushes her back. He thinks she barely defended herself with mana. As he turns, several arrows fly toward him. These Dicathian mages may be versatile, but they're as slow as I heard. A shield activates just in time and blocks the arrows. The young leader smirks. Primitive fools. Meanwhile, the mutant beasts continue attacking the elf soldiers, killing them one by one as the battle rages on. The young leader smirks again. He covers his body with fire mana and rushes toward the elf leader with his blade. Ashton, who is linked to his mind, speaks. The Dicathian mage has different mana readings, but she's on the lower side of a mid-tier mage. Her caster is preparing a single target spell. At that moment, the elf leader casts a spell and fires an arrow at him. Duck, Ashton warns. The young leader quickly bends down and dodges the attack. He thinks, if that attack had hit me directly, even a shield wouldn't have saved me. He stands up again, holding his blade covered in fire mana. I need to end this quickly. I can't waste time on one enemy. Ashton continues guiding him. To your right. The young leader moves just in time and dodges another attack. He thinks, so this is what it's like to have a sentry helping. Even without strong attack or defense magic, they're still very useful. He raises his blade and swings it down at the elf leader, trying to crush her. But she dodges at the last moment. His blade slams into the ground, breaking it apart and sending dust into the air. The elf leader covers her eyes. Taking the chance, the young leader rushes forward. His fist, powered with fire mana, strikes her in the stomach. The impact sends her flying back into the trees. She falls to the ground, holding her stomach in pain. The young leader steps forward, holding his blade again. He stands in front of her, raises his sword, and smirks. This was an easy win, he thinks. Suddenly, Ashton's fearful voice echoed, freeze. Stefan, the young leader, felt a terrifying aura. His eyes widened in shock. Ashton, trembling with fear but still linked to him, said, Stefan, you need to get out of there. Now, Stefan's body began to shake. His knees felt weak as panic filled him. What is this? He thought. It feels like something is invading my soul. No. I am the son of Cardinal Vale, heir to the House of Vale. I will not be brought down. Then, just a few steps in front of him, someone appeared. It was Arthur Lewin, standing calmly with narrowed, serious eyes. Stefan stared at him in disbelief. This mage. He looks around my age. How is he this powerful? Arthur raised his hand, covering it with ice magic. Stefan tried to run, but Arthur instantly froze his movement. Stefan collapsed onto the ground. Shaking with fear, he spoke weakly, Ashton. Tell Saren to. Before he could finish, he saw his own subordinates running away, leaving him behind. Breathing heavily, he fell completely to the ground, all hope gone. He turned his head toward Arthur. It wasn't supposed to be like this. On the other side, many elf soldiers had already lost their lives. Others struggled to carry the wounded to safety. Arthur looked around and thought, too many elven soldiers have died trying to protect their home. The elf leader stepped forward and said, Thank you, General Arthur, for your help. My name is Lena Imris, head of the Southeastern Unit in Elenwar. Arthur lowered his head slightly and replied, I'm sorry. All of this could have been avoided if I had arrived before the beasts reached the forest. He then remembered his conversation with Agrona Vritra and thought, is this what he meant when he said the war is moving to the next stage? How will the council deal with this? Arthur then looked at Stefan, who lay unconscious on the ground. He raised his hand and called out, "You there?" An elf soldier stepped forward respectfully. "Yes, General Arthur?" Arthur said, "Take him to the camp and treat his wounds so he doesn't bleed out." As the soldier lifted Stefan, Arthur added, "Oh, and make sure he doesn't kill himself. I need him alive."
The scene shifts to the campus. In one part of the campus, Stefan Vale is tied up with ropes. A magic spell has been cast around the area so no one can hear his voice. Soon, Arthur Lewin arrives. Inside, Stefan struggles and shouts angrily, "My arm! Where is my arm? Someone answer me right now!" Arthur enters and silently observes him for a moment. Stefan continues shouting, "If you primitive beasts know what's good for you, you'll untie me. I am of the Vale bloodline, a distinguished family." Before he can finish, Arthur slaps him to shut him up. Stefan lets out a small laugh, shocked. "You slapped me? What's your name?" "I'll." Before he can finish, Arthur grabs him by the neck and lifts him slightly. "I don't think you understand the gravity of the situation you're in," Arthur says coldly. With his other hand, he creates a lightning spell. Stefan's voice trembles. "Unhand me! What are you doing?" As Arthur looks at him, he remembers a conversation with the Grona. "I think it's hardly fair to act like your side is better than mine. Do you shed tears for the ants you step on?" Unable to hold back, Arthur strikes Stefan's face with the lightning. Stefan screams in pain. Arthur strikes him again. Stefan's body trembles violently. "It feels like I'm on fire." Arthur grabs his head and says calmly, "Your nerve endings are a little fried and confused right now. But that's just the beginning." He presses the lightning-covered hand against Stefan's head. Stefan's eyes widen in shock as he screams. But suddenly, Arthur stops. For a moment, he stares at him, almost unable to believe what he's doing. Stefan, still in pain, weakly begs, "Please. Why are you doing this? What do you want?" "I'll give you anything." Arthur replies coldly, "Your name?" "Why do you need to?" Arthur forms lightning again. Terrified, Stefan quickly answers, "Stefan Vale." Arthur nods slightly. "Stefan, your family, your bloodline, is prominent. Am I correct?" "Yes." "I won't kill you if you cooperate. Your condition depends on how honestly you answer my questions. Do you understand?" Arthur releases a small burst of mana to intimidate him. "I understand," Stefan says in fear. Arthur crosses his arms. "Good. List all the members of the Vale house and your relationship to them." Stefan replies, "Lucia Vale, my sister. Izora Vale, my mother. Colonel Vale, my father." Hearing the name Colonel Vale, Arthur recalls it from Yuto's memories. Arthur continues, "What is the awakening process?" "It's a ceremony that unlocks a child's first mark, allowing them to become a mage." Arthur places his hand on his chin. "What's the difference between a mark and a crest?" Stefan hesitates, wondering how Arthur already knows this. "A crest is stronger. It grants a deeper understanding of a specific type of magic." Arthur thinks carefully. "Is a crest the highest level?" "No. After crests come emblems, and then regalias." Arthur's eyes grow colder. "How strong are regalia users compared to retainers?" I don't know. The strongest mage in my family is only an emblem holder." "I swear on the name of Vritra." Arthur sighs. "They treat the Vritra like gods." He asks again, "Do you know how many emblem and regalia holders are currently in Daikathan?" "My commander is an emblem holder, but he answers to a regalia holder." "I don't know the exact numbers." Arthur realizes Stefan is too low-ranking to be very useful. But Stefan quickly adds, "I do know something else. This wasn't the only attack on the forest. Several other troops are heading north right now." Arthur turns and begins to walk away. Stefan pleads desperately, "That's valuable information, right? Please let me go. You promised. I answered all your questions truthfully." Arthur walks outside, seeing wounded soldiers and dead bodies. Without looking back, he says coldly, "I told you. I wouldn't kill you." Then, with a slight smirk, he adds, "Elven soldiers. Do whatever you want with him." The scene shifts to the forest. Arthur walks alone. He recalls Agrona saying, "I advise you to make a choice soon. We are moving to the next stage of this war, and it won't benefit your side." The thought troubles Arthur. He sits down beside a tree. Should I have told the council about Agrona? He wonders. No one knows about this threat. Except me and Sylvie. He takes out a water bag from his storage and drinks. She only knows because it's getting harder to hide my thoughts from her, he thinks. I hope Sylvie is adjusting to her new body and abilities. He clenches his fist. I have better control over my dragons now that I've reached the white core stage. He places his hand on his head, worried. It's a good thing I left her at the castle. Again, Agrona's words echo in his mind. I'm sure those test subjects were grateful. Winsam, Alder, and the rest of the Azuras have abandoned you and Daikathan. Suddenly, his memories shift. He sees his past life as Gray. Gray is tied tightly to a chair. A voice calls out, "Can you hear me?" Gray struggles to free himself, slowly opening his eyes. "Who are you?" A figure in the shadows spoke. "What is the last thing you remember?" Gray thought for a moment and replied, "I just won the tournament." The figure asked again, "What else?" Gray answered, "I accepted an offer to be mentored by a powerful person." The figure stepped forward, revealing a man with a mark on his face standing in front of Gray. Another man beside him asked, "What is the name of the woman? And what is the nature of your relationship?" Gray thought carefully. If they already know it was a woman, they're only looking for confirmation. He replied, "I know her as Lady Vera. I just met her." The man with the mark pointed at Gray and shouted, "Lies." The other man held him back and calmly asked, "What happened after you won the tournament, Gray?" Gray answered nervously, "I was heading back to my dorm room." Suddenly, the marked man grabbed Gray by the neck and shouted again, "Lies." He lifted Gray along with the chair and said coldly, "It would be wise to tell us which organization sent you to protect the legacy." Gray trembled, unable to scream. Tears filled his eyes as he thought, "What are they talking about? Organization? Legacy?" The man threw him down, and Gray cried out in pain. The other man turned to his partner and said, "Strip him. I'll get the white phosphorus." After removing Gray's clothes, the man held 2 small containers and said, "I believe you have information we need. Fortunately for you, we need you alive. For now." Gray thought weakly, "How long was I unconscious?" The man opened a bottle and said, "If you are who we think you are, you may have prepared for this. But if we are wrong, then this will be very uncomfortable." He dipped his gloved fingers into the substance and added, "This will hurt." Gray panicked. "What are you talking about?" The man pressed it onto Gray's chest. Gray's voice shook. "Wait. What are you doing? Please." Moments later, the man ignited it. Gray screamed in pain, his body shaking uncontrollably. Again, the man repeated it. "Don't do this," Gray begged. But the burning continued, and Gray screamed even louder. It became hard to track time, Gray thought. They would hurt me, then stop, giving me false hope. Only to start again. Before they could continue, Gray cried out, "I'll tell you anything. Everything. Just stop." The man nodded. "That's better." He held the containers in his hands and said, "Now, I'll tell you a story. And you'll fill in the gaps if you want to avoid more pain." He continued, "Your name is Gray. Headmaster Olivia Wilbeck took care of you since infancy. The orphanage was your home. Correct?" Gray nodded weakly. The man leaned closer. "Which military institution trained you to become the legacy's protector?" Gray replied, "I've only completed my 2nd year at Cyrus Academy. I've had no prior training." The man clenched his teeth in anger. "So you're saying you defeated skilled fighters without training?" "I had help from my friends. But why would Wilbeck," the man interrupted angrily, "allow the legacy to walk around publicly with ordinary children?" Gray looked at him in confusion. "What is this legacy you keep talking about? I've never heard of it." The man's eyes widened. He stepped closer and said coldly, "There are only 2 things I want to know, Gray. Which organization sent you? And how much is the country of Trident involved in publicly announcing Lady Vera as your mentor?" He pressed the substance against Gray's cheek. Gray, terrified, whispered, "Please." The man lit a flame and brought it closer. "I don't know," Gray cried, sweat running down his face. Just as the flame was about to touch him, a sword suddenly appeared and struck the man holding the flame in the neck. Before anyone could react, another strike hit the marked man, sending him flying backward. A calm voice said, "You're safe now, kid." Gray's eyes filled with tears as he struggled to stay conscious. Standing before him was Vera, his mentor. She had come to save him.